Hi, how's it going? I'm Marlena. Thanks for wandering on by. So, I want to talk about Oracle decks. And I had started my series on why I tarot, and now I thought I'd just pop in to talk about why I oracle, which sounds kind of dirty, but no, but why I use Oracle decks. So, let me just kind of talk about what Oracle is in the first place for anybody who may have no idea what I'm talking about. In my opinion, Oracle decks are any kind of cards that do not that are not tarot, that do not follow the tarot system. They are either more or less than 78 cards. They're not 78 cards. They don't have they don't follow the tarot system with majors and minors. But basically, an Oracle deck is something that's not tarot. So when I first started this whole exploration of tarot, I heard about Oracle decks, and when I saw them, I immediately was like, no. No, I'm not going to be using that. I'm in love with the tarot. That's my thing. That's the system that I'm sticking to. And then quickly that changed because this whole journey that I'm on is for me, and it's my journey of personal self growth and development. So I'm in a place where I'm excited to see new different things and explore. And so like I'm exploring things about myself, in psychological realms. I'm exploring things in like a spiritual sense too. And so I'm open to trying different things. And Oracle is a way to do that. It can be intimidating in a way, at least for me, because, the tarot has a wealth of resources. There's so much out there. It's a specific system. The cards have, meanings. And there's like a bunch of different opinions about what that is. So you have like a bunch of resources in order to kind of like hone in on what works for you with the tarot. With an oracle deck, you get that oracle deck, and then you get that creator or artist's interpretation of that, and it can range across a bunch of different kinds of topics, and it can feel maybe limiting in that way, and also kind of intimidating because you're like, I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to use this for. And so I've been kind of working and getting into a groove and trying to figure out what Oracle is how it works best for me in my own practice. And I have a lot of decks that I want to show you that kind of illustrate different ways that I use Oracle. First, let's talk about some ways that I use Oracle that's like completely outside of my tarot practice, or it's like more adjacent to where I use Oracle in a place where it's not during a tarot reading. So I have in this, exploration, I have with my own psychology, with my own, self-growth, and with my own spiritual path, I have begun working, and doing a few different practices for meditation, to connect to my higher self. I'm saying it that way because all of these terms are things that I'm still like exploring and figuring out. So like working with deity, that's kind of new for me. Finding my higher self, meditating, and then kind of like getting looking into like different spiritual paths or philosophies and things like that, that I kind of want to bring into my life for different reasons. So I have a few Oracle decks that I use for messages from like my higher self or from deity or something for me that like resonates on a spiritual level, something kind of otherworldly and outside of me. But also internal. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that I have these oracles. The Kuan Yin Oracle Pocket Edition. And something that I really like about this is that it has the image on one side and the message on the other. So I'll usually use these as a, can be as a devotional experience, or a meditation experience for me. And they're really beautiful. I like that it works for me because I don't need any separate book to go into when I'm wanting to kind of tap into something beyond my realm, beyond me in some way. This is the type of oracle that I use, and Kuan Yin Oracle is very healing. It's very soothing. It's very loving and kind. It's, a go-to when I'm kind of wanting to feel supported and loved. And then I also have the Kali Oracle, which functions for me in a very similar way, in that it is tapping into goddess energy for meditation, for devotional practice, for, intuitive guidance, to kind of figure out what aspects of myself that I want to kind of analyze. So I use this again outside of a tarot reading where I would just draw one card and read the message on the back, and then that, take that kind of maybe journal, maybe meditate on it, that kind of thing. And by meditate, I literally just mean sit in a quiet place with my own thoughts for a little while. It's nothing elaborate. Sometimes I light a candle. Just the examples of that type of practice where it's outside of the tarot and it's more like a daily kind of ritual or nightly. So usually in the morning is when I have time to use those types of oracles. So I feel like those oracles fill a space that is, why I use them is for reasons outside of why I tarot. It's more on some connected to my my spiritual work. And I have another one. Whoops. So I also have the Tao box. And this is a set of cards that has the artwork on the front again. And these are Chinese landscape paintings, drawings. But on the back, they have there's excerpts from the Tao Te Ching. And I just got this, so I've only just started working with it. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh my gosh. And it's going to very much, so far it's functioning for me in that same way as the Kuan Yin and the Kali Oracle, in that depending on what I need, or what I'm kind of drawn to, wanting to meditate upon. This is a little bit more gentle, like the Kuan Yin, where Kali's a little bit more hey, get your butt in gear. But whenever I'm wanting to tap into something that I feel is, I keep using the word spiritual, but that's all I got. I'm not, I'm exploring that sort of stuff right now. Yeah, so this is one of the oracles. I would consider this an oracle deck that I use for practices outside of tarot. So these are a few more decks, the oracle decks that I use outside of my tarot practice, my tarot readings specifically, and they just kind of like serve another purpose. So when I first started, so I'll show you. So this is one of the first oracle decks that I ever got, the Moonology oracle cards, and I thought I was going to really dig using them when during my tarot readings, but it didn't really work out for me that way. I was getting too caught up because the cards have the different moon phases as well as a message, and then some of them are just like they have, you know, different types of moon. Like this is like a specific one, new moon in Aries, but then there's some that's more like super moon, and what else? I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have seen this, you know, blue moon, things like that. And I got too like caught up in my head about like the message coming at a time when this was not where the moon phase was. I don't know. Like I kind of wanted to just spend, you know, I started working in a practice of paying attention to the moon phases, what that meant for me, like, you know, metaphorically or even literally in my life. And so this deck wasn't working because I was getting too caught up in where, you know, where the moon actually was. So what I've ended up doing is I pull this deck out during the new moon and the full moon. I have this out, and my daughter and I do like a whole thing during the new moon and the full moon, which I won't go into that whole thing, but these cards we put them out on our table, and we pay attention to what's going on with the moon, and it's a thing that my daughter and I like to do together. And then I do a tarot reading that's like separate from this particular practice. So like these types of cards, I kind of haven't been using anymore. I've just been pulling out like this type of one with the full moon in Leo, right? It's our new moon in Leo, that one says. So that card will just, you know, it'll be like I hesitate to say altar card, but yeah, I guess that's, you know, I guess that would be the right term for it. I'm still kind of like deciding whether or not these terms work or what I want to say. But that's, you know, I put it out on a card stand on a table. And I also, for that same practice, I pull out the Moon Oracle, which I've only used this as like an actual reading spread, like once or twice. So it's also now serving the purpose of being I like to read the messages, and I pull out the cards that are associated with that particular full or new moon, wherever it may be. So like this deck comes with, so it'll have the moon phase and a keyword. It also has goddesses that are associated with different types of moons: red moon, dark moon, white moon. And the guidebook, if you're interested in the guidebook, really is really great for giving you a bunch of different ideas for how to use this deck. Typically now what I use this deck for is I use these types of cards where I pull this, here, let me grab some more so you can see. So I grab this card that is in, actually, I guess I only use the one because this is crescent, first quarter. So I don't know, maybe I'm not keeping this one for very long, but because I only use the ones that are full moon and new moon. And these are the ones that I pull out. But I have used it on its own, not with a tarot deck, for its own type of reading. And that was cool. I haven't used it again that way. And so I'm just sort of like, this is me like exploring how I want to use Oracle with different practices that I'm also trying and exploring. Those are specific to my new moon and full moon practice. So another way that I use Oracle is more like in a study type of experience. And the best deck that I have to show you that is the Heavenly Bodies Astrology cards. It comes with an awesome guidebook, and for anybody that's like new to astrology, I highly recommend it. So like along this path that I've come to with, like, you know, again, like I'm diving into and taking a look at different aspects of spirituality, psychology, astrology, you know, different types of things that I hadn't really explored before, or at least not in a deep way. So I'm doing that now, and I'm, you know, wanting to understand, mostly because of the tarot. Like all of this stuff is like come out and branched off because I've gotten into tarot, and astrology is one of those things. And this is a great deck that I have used, and here's some of the cards that I have used as a great study tool. In fact, I used it specifically in my study of the Thoth Tarot. And I talk about this a little bit more in depth on a live stream that I got to participate in with my Thoth study group, Lisa Pepez, Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and Danny from Danny Mystic, and I. We did a live stream talking about our Thoth studies, and I brought up this deck. I guess I can link that particular live stream if you're interested in taking a look at it. I brought up this deck. I wanted to learn more about the astrological correspondences, and this deck gives you the planets, the signs. It also has cards for the different elements. It has cards for whether it's fixed, mutable, or cardinal, you know, and it's a real, and it gives you the houses as well. So it's, for me, I have not, I tried to use it as an oracle in tarot readings, and that's not how it functioned best for me. It's functioned best for me as a study tool. I'll show you one more that's a little bit of an outlier, but now I'm sort of heading into the types of oracles that I use alongside tarot or to enhance my tarot. These are the decks that I use directly with my tarot cards, and they function to help me with those readings in kind of a couple different ways. So I mentioned already when I talked about the Heavenly Bodies Astrology deck that I've been, and if you've watched my other videos, and you know, I've been learning the Thoth Tarot, and I have been working with Thoth just starting this year, so the last few months. Oh my gosh, we're in May already. So yeah, for a while for a while I've been working with the Thoth Tarot, and I love it. And I had it's been like its own thing, and I hadn't wanted to use any oracle alongside it until I found the Tantric Dakini Oracle. So that's the box, and this is still relatively new, and I've just started using this as part of my daily Thoth Tarot card pull. So this is an old deck that was, I guess, reprinted. I mean, I don't know all the particulars about it, but it aligns with the tarot in some way, but it has its own sort of thing going on. It's a collage deck. It's definitely not something that I have ever been attracted to using before. But when I saw it, I just felt like this is something that I want to try to use alongside the Thoth Tarot. So it's very out there. It's numbered, it has specific keywords, it has these like real I don't know how else to explain it, but it's just like, it's a real out there kind of stuff. And it was written by someone who spent time in India learning the Tantra. And I mean, I'm not an expert on any of that kind of stuff. That's why I'm reading the book that it came along with. But right now, I'm just slowly kind of going through and pulling one card alongside each of my, alongside the Thoth, and it's been really opening up, it's really been opening up those readings for me. And I've just really been enjoying using that. Yeah, I can't give you the history of this deck, nor any kind of, I love this card. Oh my gosh. It's so weird. But what I was saying is I can't give you any like real in-depth, like an in-depth review about the creator or, you know, how this oracle came to be, because I just got it and I'm learning it. And right now I'm just totally bananas. Right now I'm just using it alongside the thought. Like, for example, this is one of the cards that I pulled. It's pretty, you can use your intuition. Like, you don't have to use the guidebook. So like Chameleon came out, and it came out for me next to the Lovers card. And so it was like a whole thing for me because I'm a Gemini, and I have, you know, I have sort of figuring out like my different, you know, my dualistic stuff and my different personalities and the way that I behave in, you know, in private versus in public, and like how I, you know, put on different shades of myself to, you know, for as a defense mechanism or whatever it may be. And so that's yeah, and I'm like terrified of lizards. And I just, you know, this came out and it was like the Lovers card, which is my card, the Gemini card, and then this came out and it was just like, it opened up like so much stuff for me, and it was a real neat, really really good experience. So yeah, the Tantric Dakini Oracle is sort of an outlier in my practice right now because it's functioning just to work alongside the Thoth Tarot right now, and it's unlike anything else that I own. But yeah, like when I first started oracle, like playing with oracles, I didn't know what I wanted or what I wanted to use them for. And so like these things have developed, like those new practices, the spiritual practices, the moon practices, that sort of stuff has kind of like begun, you know, and I still feel like I'm in a place where that may evolve or change. But when I first, you know, heard of Oracle, I wanted to use it. My first inclination was to want to use it specifically with the tarot. And I bought, I don't have them anymore because I gave them away. So I bought a couple of oracles. My first ones were the Colette Baron Reed oracles, Wisdom of the Oracle, and the Enchanted Map. Those didn't work for me is because the key words weren't what I needed to help me kind of dig into a reading or to summarize a reading. And I'm a poet. I think I've mentioned this several times already in just the few videos that I've made. I'm a poet, so like words and like one word or phrases are real important to me, and I need to have something that's expansive, I guess is the right word. That is something that can help me like free flow, or maybe not always expansive. Sometimes I need something to be a little specific. So I guess instead of talking about the Oracle decks that didn't work for me, the best way that I can explain to you how I use Oracle with tarot, usually at the beginning or at the end of a tarot reading, is when I finally found an Oracle that answered that kind of need for me, that answered what it was that I was looking for in an Oracle to enhance and bring more depth and richness to a tarot reading. And so that is, I'll show you the box. So I purchased the Soul Trees Ascension deck, and I'll show you some of the cards. So it is literally, I mean, the artwork is very much the same. They're trees. It's beautiful. I mean, I really enjoy the artwork. And then it has keywords like breakthrough, sometimes a phrase, dramatic shift, sweetness, awareness. So for me, this is the deck. This deck is an amazing tool alongside tarot, specifically because of the keywords. And like I said, keywords are very important to me. And in the way that I do a tarot reading, so I would use something like this by starting out the tarot reading with this, this oracle cards, by asking, what do I need to focus on today? Or what is today's purpose? Or what is an energy to tap into today? Or what is today's challenge? Or anything, like, what do I need to learn about myself today? And so because I often do readings that are a little bit more like open-ended that way, this is a great place to start. And even if I didn't ask a specific question, even if I just said, Soul Trees Ascension deck, what message do you have? Or just put the card down. This is like, so emotions would come up, right? And I can use the artwork because it's slightly different. There are trees. I mean, it might seem kind of samey to a lot of people, but I can definitely get in there with perception and use the artwork. But mostly I'm kind of homing in on the keyword. And then where I go from there, so what do I need to focus on today? Self-care comes up. And then I'll draw my tarot cards and ask why. Why do I need to focus on self-care? How can I focus on self-care? Where in my life is my self-care lacking? What can I do? What can I think about? Or, something like that. And then I'll pull cards around it. Different, different each time. I usually do, one on either side. But yeah, I mean, I use oracle in this way at the beginning of a tarot reading. And I have found that this kind of setup, these kinds of decks that have a beautiful image that I'm drawn to, and one keyword or small key phrase are the ones that work best for me. So here's another example, the When My Soul Whispered Oracle. And so these have one keyword. This is a little bit more minimalistic, right? So motivate, vibration, abundance, listen. I love that with the shell. So, this can be used at the beginning of a reading, and the word kind of then helps you move through the reading itself, right? Advocate, unconditional. And I mean, it's super minimalist, but the image there also expands upon the meaning. So balance, the bee working in harmony, that kind of thing, teamwork. And so I found that this is the type of oracle that really works. And it has to be, you know, for me, it has to be something that is, so this is another one, the Magical Herb Oracle. This one also works in exactly the same way for me. And it also, I love it specifically with the Marguerite Peterson tarot. But like this too, so, and this is like, you know, botanical. So I love pretty flowers, but I know nothing about that flower. What I kind of get into is the keywords, so expansion. And then it does have like behind the plant itself, it has an image that corresponds to the keyword, right? So cleanse, and it gives you kind of like the idea of like a shower head there. At least that's what I see. Cleanse. Let me find another one. Guidance. And then you see it has the lighthouse there. So it has like all of these things for me. So like it's aesthetically pleasing for me. I like flowers. It has a keyword that opens up the tarot reading for me and gives me places to go and things to consider and think about. And then it also has an image that has more than just that corresponds to the keyword. So this one does that really well. Just like the When I Whispered, the soul trees, you have to like look a little bit more. Like here's soul trees again. And this one does it, right? So like the keyword here is body, and then it has the like the chakras along the tree trunk. So that, you know, that makes sense, right? That aligning your body with the chakras, etc. But yeah, let me show you a few more from the Magical Herb Oracle, because I really love this one. Detox, balance. Does it have scales? Yeah, see, like it has the scales. And it's just, it's very soothing, and it kind of, you know, and it goes well like aesthetically, like it, when you know, pair it, put it with with tarot decks, it works really well that way too. And this is another one that does the same thing. This is the Hedge Witch. Oh, here, I'll show you the box too, since I happen to have it. The Hedge Witch Botanical Oracle is another one where it has it just has the right oracle formula for me. It has like the flower that I love, because I love flowers. It has a keyword. And it has, well, this one doesn't really have an image that goes right along with it. But for me, this is like enough. The keywords are enough to move from. And I like all the white space next to, because it kind of can go next to so many different kinds of tarot that way. Resourcefulness. The guidebook is really amazing for this oracle as well. And I do use the guidebooks along with my oracles, you know, sometimes more than others. Sometimes I'm like in the mood to find out what the wild rose, why the wild rose was chosen for the word clarity. Sometimes I just like it because it's pretty to look at, and the word itself is like, you know, it takes me where I want to go, not want to go, but where I may need to go, you know, to consider things that are going on with me. And that's why I like to use it. So that's the Hedge Witch Botanical. So those are examples, and I use these same oracle decks. I can use them at the end of an oracle of a tarot reading as well, but I'll show you a couple others that I have used recently as a summary, or like endpoint, or like a kind of like next step maybe at the end of a tarot reading. So like I said, the oracles that I've shown you, they kind of give you like a gateway into your reading, so you can, you know, pull a card and then you expand off on this word into your reading. You can also use them in specific spread spots, but I'm kind of talking a little bit more about like free form readings. But I also use them as like a summary word or a summary idea or message at the end of a tarot reading. And I've used recently, just this past week, I've been using, last week I was using the Sacred Destiny Oracle in order to do that. And so very much like the other oracles that I've shown you, this has that Oracle, formula that works for me because it has a keyword. Usually this one, I think it just has 1 or 2 words, just like the other one. So very, minimal. I don't like a whole, long spiel there. And I don't like things that are just like made up. That's what I was, when I was talking about why I moved along some other oracles, the reason I did is because I like, here's the word stillness. So I can work with that. I have associations for the word stillness. I can use the image that'll bring things up for me. It takes me places, and it takes me places out. It takes me places inward, and it means something to me. Like it resonates. Like I can work with that in a way that feels, true to my own life. There are oracle decks that have these like, kind of like, I don't know, they're maybe created or part of some sort of like practice or have to do with like a specific topic or not, I don't want to say religion, or I mean maybe what I mean is like they have like, it'll have like the God, I can't think of the one from the Enchanted Map. It'll be like goblins, or it'll be like the Enchanted Map, or it'll be like, oh God, there was one that was like the Clockworker or something like that. It has these like very specific like things that I don't know what that means to me. Like I could, try to figure it out, but that's not what that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for words like this: community, gateway. Oh, I showed you this one already. So inner peace, and then it typically my favorite combo is when it has a word that means something to me that I can work with in order to like dig into my psychology, my, whatever, and things that are going on in my day-to-day life, or, my things that I'm working on creatively, all that stuff that I use tarot for. This, like the image then can, or the word and then the image then I use, to expand upon that. And so, okay, so getting back to why I use these, how I use them as a summary. So like I'll go through my tarot reading, either following a specific spread that I made up or found that somebody else created. And then at the end of that spread, I'll pull an additional card as like a summary. So I'll have done my reading, I'll have interpreted my reading, I'll have, I'll have done that part. And then I get the sense of like, maybe I need just like one more thing. Like I need, so like tell me, like I would need this oracle to tell me maybe a next step or to summarize like how, Secret Destiny Oracle, how would you summarize this whole reading in one, with one thing, with one word? How would you kind of put this all together in one place for me? Because sometimes that's what happens when I've done a reading, I've gone like left, right, and, everywhere. And I've, I have some takeaways, but kind of just need to put like a fine point on it so I can, close the journal or, stop thinking and like kind of just have an end to it. And then I'll pull one card from here, from like the Sacred Destiny Oracle, and it'll say illumination or new beginnings. And I'll be like, oh, okay, so yeah. So that's how all of these things are connected to one another. That's how this five Five of Swords means with this, and like, and then I'll put, you know, that it puts it together for me in a, like, you know, like a kind of like a neat little package, so that I can just kind of like, okay, all right. And then I can move on from there with the summary. So the Sacred Destiny Oracle has been one that's been really great for that. It's also really good to use for an opener. And then I have one more to show you. I think one more. I think this is it. I think this is it, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, so the last Oracle deck that I'm going to show you is one many of you may recognize if you've been into or interested in Oracle decks. I believe everything I showed you, yeah, literally, oh no, except for the Soul Trees. So the Soul Trees is an independently produced deck. Everything else I showed you is mass market, and you can purchase anywhere you know, Amazon, Book Depository, anywhere. So except for the Soul Trees Ascension and then this deck that I'm about to show you, this is probably the most versatile Oracle deck that I have. And it definitely ticks off all the boxes. It definitely has that magical Oracle formula. And in fact, I think I realized when I saw this on other people's YouTube channels or in the different social media spheres, when I saw this deck, I knew that like this is what made sense to me as an Oracle. And it's super versatile in that, like, I have used this with tarot specifically, at the beginning of a tarot reading, at the end of a tarot reading, mixed in with a tarot reading. I've used this just by itself as an oracle. And I think I could probably use this alongside all my other practices as well. Like, I'm certain it could be part of a devotional or spiritual practice. I'm certain I can use it with my new moon or full moon type ritual as well. So this is, I'm just singing its praises for a couple minutes. This is the Roots and Wings Oracle, and I have the mini version. And it is, yeah, like I said, independently produced. It has the keywords at the bottom, and a great piece of artwork that aligns, you know, with the word. Something else that's really wonderful about it is that it looks fantastic next to literally every single tarot deck that I own. This, I should get closer. This deck is, because of the white space, I guess, and the way that it's drawn, it really looks beautiful next to everything. So it's aesthetically pleasing. It certainly gives you food for thought. The words are exactly what I need. Let me find a good one. So let's see. Like, look at that. Wildness. I love it. It's so cool. I mean, it's just so enriching, like enhancing for me. Like, that's what Oracle really feels like, is it enhances my practices. It enhances my tarot reading. That's what I'm talking about here. Drifting. I mean, it's just, and it's a lot of cards. Okay. Some of these, you know, some of these decks have a lot, don't have that many. But like, this is chunky. This is a good amount of cards. I don't know how many exactly, but, yeah, it is like, look at this, release. So you can imagine, like, if you start off a tarot reading and you ask, you know, what do I need to focus on today? Release. Well, I mean, that's great. And it also can act as like that summary card at the end. It can also fit in a specific tarot spread spot. I've been, I like to play with like tarot, oracle, and this type of oracle deck is a great way to do that. I'm still in the process of like kind of developing my oracle card practice. But right now, those are the main ways that I like to use oracle. I use oracle as part of spiritual meditative practice, like with the Tao box. I use oracle as part of an enhancement for a specific deck. Like I sought this out specifically, or I was looking for something specific for the Thoth Tarot. I use oracle for its, because it's aesthetically pleasing, and the keywords are something that resonate very deeply with me in my tarot practice. Use oracle as a study tool. I use oracle for a very specific practice, like new moon and full moon rituals. I use oracle daily. I can use oracle daily. I can use oracle just, as part of a specific practice or a specific tarot reading. Yeah, it's cool because I feel like with oracle, what I thought might have been limiting, that I had to perhaps use it in the way that was intended by the specific creator, has now become has become the opposite of that. It's been extremely, expansive. Yeah, so like rather than limit my practice or the things that I'm working with, it has augmented it, and then it's broadened and widened that experience for me. And I find that, yeah, that's the type of oracle words, keywords on an oracle that work the best for me with the tarot. Those words that are broad and that kind of can cover, more things that like take me to different places. Whereas when I have a longer message on a card, that's more part of like a different practice for me. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed taking a look at all of these different oracle decks. They've rotated through my life and practice right now, and this is where I am sitting with them now. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at all that, and I'd love to hear from anybody, how you use oracle, why you use the oracle, where you are with it now, and if any of these methods that I have resonate with you. I'd love to hear about that as well. So yeah, thank you. Oh, there's my dog barking. He didn't bark this whole time. Okay, anyway, thank you for wandering by and hanging out with me today. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day.